Faith Perspective on Catholic
Hello
SG Radio.
and welcome to The Faith Perspective here on Catholic SG Radio, dear sisters and brothers. And here on The Faith Perspective, it's a program where we get to discuss trending issues or events happening in the church or in the world. Now, Pope Francis has often incorporated the themes of interreligious dialogue and human fraternity in many of his writings and his speeches. And his focus has always been on building dialogue, fraternity, and peace building. Now, during the Holy Father's apostolic visit in Singapore, which is going to be happening very, very soon, 11th to the 13th of September, he's going to be making a stop at the Catholic Junior College. And there, he's going to be meeting interreligious, or he'll have an interreligious meeting with young people. And this is going to be hosted by the youth from different religions. Now, it's really, really, for the first time, I think, we've never had youth leaders leading such a meeting as this. But I want to introduce to you, of course, three very special guests. Lawrence Chong, he is, of course, no stranger. Lawrence is chair for Interreligious Youth with Pope Francis, and he's also a consultant at the Vatican's Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue. Sister Theresa Seow is also well known to us, but Sister is vice chair for the Interreligious Youth with Pope Francis. She's also vice chair of the Archdiocesan Catholic Council for Interreligious Dialogue. And then we have this young, handsome man. He's vice chair. He's Bryan Theng. Bryan is vice chair for Interreligious Youth with Pope Francis and a member of the Archdiocesan Catholic Council for Interreligious Dialogue. Thank you so much, three of you, coming down this morning. Thank you so much. Okay, but what is happening with the Holy Father coming, I think is truly very, very important.
Yes.
First of all, it's a blessing to have him here. But for him to come and meet interreligious youth, has this happened anywhere else?
Well, it has to a certain extent, but what is unique about the Singapore segment, I would say that, we have 10 religions officially represented, right, in Singapore. And Singapore being the most religiously diverse nation on earth, it's a far more inclusive reach in terms of religious representation. And I think this event is not just young lay people. We have young clergy.
Right.
So our young clergy and another young clergy of other religions, because you cannot do interreligious dialogue with just lay people. You need to engage the future leaders, religious. So I think that's what is so specific and exciting about this particular
powerful.
event. And powerful, yes.
Wow. Okay, I want to start with Sister. Sister, I want to ask you, how did you get involved in interreligious, interfaith dialogue? Because I know you've have many years of experience in this area, but just share with us how you got started.
I've always considered it a call, a vocation within my own religious vocation. When I was away in Rome, and this was 95, when I was coming back after my theological studies, the late Archbishop Gregory actually texted those days, the call. When he said that he needed someone to represent him in Singapore on the Interreligious Council. And that was how I got involved.
Wow.
Of course, when I walked in the first time those days, I said, my goodness, all men and elderly,
Oh my,
So
okay.
I think it was really a learning curve for me being on the IRO.
Right. But you've spent many wonderful, fruitful years.
Yes, it has been very fruitful and enriching also for myself as a religious and as a Catholic.
Right.
I've grown through the experience.
Okay. Lawrence, how did you get involved?
Well, I serve in the Focolare, right, as a member. And when I was young, the Focolare in Singapore sent me as a youth leader to be involved in this work. I went to Indonesia, Ambon, and I didn't know there's this whole universe of young people active in interreligious dialogue. Because in Singapore, you take it for granted,
Yes.
But in many countries, it's life and death. if countries are not open to interreligious dialogue, that means you have severe religious intolerance. And especially for us as Catholics, we are minority faith in many parts of Asia. It's really very, it affects livelihoods. It affects the future. So when I met these hundreds of young people involved, and I said to myself, like, sister, I think this is something I would love to serve, and it's a mission and it's a call. And I must say, throughout the years, what is interesting is that in our diocese, actually, Sister Theresa also, involved me. It's not something that you will find out on your own. You actually need mentors. You need people who, give you the opportunity to get involved. So I think over the years, from the Focolare, from our Archdiocese, I was given many opportunities to learn, because you cannot learn by theory. This is not a kind of mission where you don't know anybody, you can study all you want, but until you encounter a youth of another faith, you have critical conversations about why do you believe in this?
Yes.
Then it triggers you to say, hey, actually, I do not know enough about my own magisterium and I need to read up on this, So I always say that you cannot form young leaders. You have to get them in to be formed. And then along the way, you got to journey with them. So sister journey with me. There are other leaders who journey with me. And that's how I learn. Because sometimes I do not know certain things,
Right.
I'll ask, hey, sister, what do I do? So there are real specific situations where the church says the dialogue of life, right? So I think the dialogue of life is quintessential method for us to be involved and engaged, thrown in, sort of like being thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, talking about that, dear sisters and brothers, you are actually looking here at a three-generational lineup, so to speak. And so I want to ask Bryan. Bryan Theng is the youngest here. He's the third generation. How did you get involved in interfaith dialogue?
Well, my first encounter was in 2021 during the Catholic 200 SG commemorations.
Right.
There were a couple of ecumenical and interreligious events organized.
Right.
And these were the Dialogue Space SG
That's right.
forums. And I think I got to learn about it and volunteered as a facilitator in a very sort of pragmatic, almost Singaporean manner. I had a bit of facilitation experience at my work. Then I had just come back to Singapore from overseas the year before.
Right.
And really wanted to find a way to, connect back with the church here and with a sort of new community of young people. And so I think in a very pragmatic way, I sort of fell into the space. But once I got into it, I think as Lawrence said, you really start to appreciate the value and the meaning of our, well, first of all, multiracial and multireligious society in Singapore, and then two, how active the church is and how active we should continue to be, as young people.
What is the youth scene like when it comes to interreligious dialogue in Singapore?
Pretty vibrant. I think at least within the church, we've got a good spread of representatives, both within ACC RRD and sort of outside of ACC RRD. For example, just a couple of weeks ago, edX, the Archdiocesan Interreligious Dialogue and Ecumenism Center of Singapore, hosted a why interreligious dialogue, with some of our religious leaders. I think we got a good representation of youth in attendance, both at the school level, but also at the sort of working level. So that was really good. And then so beyond the church, we've got almost a whole smattering of ground-up organizations, volunteers who are really interested in promoting Singapore's harmony in Singapore society. So I think we really see a good spread of that representation. And we're hoping to capture some of that representation on the 13th of September when we meet the Pope.
So when you talk about this representation of youth, is it throughout all the other faiths that are represented?
I would say it's pretty even. So on the 13th of September, we'll have approximately 10 or so youth leaders on stage with the Pope. A couple of them will ask His Holiness questions about, how to take the journey of
privilege.
Really exciting. How to take interreligious dialogue further and to the future. And part of that 10, we'll have more or less a complete representation of the 10 different religions in Singapore. We'll also have, in the Catholic side, we'll have young clergy. We'll have, we plan to have a young Buddhist monk, Sikh, and Hindu representatives who will ask questions to the Pope. So we're really sort of showcasing how far we've come as a society in Singapore, but also how far we've come as a church to, hopefully be able to bring everyone together.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I think it's truly important actually for more Singaporeans as well. And hopefully, with this meeting of the Holy Father with these youth leaders, right? More Singaporeans become more comfortable as well talking about religion. We know, and the latest stats show that about 20% say that they don't identify with any religion at all. If people, or if more people understood the value of religion in their lives, no matter what it is, in that sense, there's an anchor actually in their lives. Sister, I want to come to you and ask you, you've been, as I mentioned, a pioneer, right, involving youth. You organized an interreligious youth camp in Singapore, and then you did another one in Assisi as well. Wow. That was when you were in the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, PCID, right? Why is it important, in a sense, to create avenues for these interreligious dialogues?
Personally, for me, I feel that whenever we say that the church is mother, so as mother sets the example. And the fact is that we have the popes through especially these modern times walking the talk. They are keen really to meet people of different religions, especially the young. So the one in Assisi happened during the 20th anniversary of Nostra Aetate.
Ah, wow.
No, not Nostra Aetate. Sorry, it was the meeting of Pope John Paul II in Assisi.
Yes.
20th anniversary.
Yeah, because Nostra Aetate is 1965.
No, it was the meeting of the interreligious leaders with Pope John Paul II in Assisi.
Yes, I remember that
So
one.
I had approached the president then and said that I think we need to do something. Do we want to always bring the religious, or can we do something different? So the message was relayed to Pope Benedict, and he said, yes, do it.
Wow.
Do something different and bring the young. So with the blessings of Pope Benedict, it happened. And he himself actually met. From Assisi, they moved down to Rome. They had the opportunity to meet Pope Benedict then.
Wow.
So I think as church, when we're talking about the church as mother, both at universal and the local level, what do we really mean? Right? A mother continues to nurture, provide that guidance. And I think a mother also will show by example. They will bring their children along to meet neighbors, to be in dialogue, to be in relationship.
Yes.
So as it's not a work that I did because I believe in it. The church as catalyst for interreligious relations have to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that created an opportunity, and also here in Singapore, to bring the young people together, and it was very fruitful. The fact that we hear the young people themselves sharing the experience.
Right.
Even those who are in society where they are predominantly Catholics, like Latin America, they say they have read about other faiths. But it was the first time that they actually have an encounter with people of other faiths.
Right.
And generally, the young people are more receptive and more open.
Yeah.
They have no agenda. They go with the flow. They find friends and they continue the dialogue. And even across borders. So even here in Singapore, that Bryan have said, once the young people have the opportunities, they will continue to do it with the blessings of leaders.
Good.
So I think this is what we have to continue to do for the young and with the young.
I completely agree with you. And it's so important for those who share different faiths to know and understand each other, right? Because it is in knowing you also understand yourself better. But what would you say? I'm just throwing this open to any one of you. What would you say to someone who says that, this is my faith, and I think I'm not comfortable meeting with somebody else of another faith because it might shake me and my faith. What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say you read the gospel, because Jesus was always very comfortable to speak to a non-Jew, was the Roman soldier, the Samaritan, and I always said that we do not invent interreligious dialogue.
Right.
Interreligious dialogue is following in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. And as a disciple of Christ, dialogue is inherent in our discerning call in terms of mission and proclamation, right? And I think that what is unique in interreligious dialogue, it is the only safe space where you can speak openly about Jesus Christ, you can speak openly about your faith, you can have a very honest exchange. Like I had so many wonderful exchange with my Buddhist friends, for example, on the issue of suffering.
Right.
First, for Buddhists, it's not necessarily an easy subject. I remember going through a crisis once, because in interreligious dialogue, sometimes things are complicated. Let's put it this way. So I was organizing something and I was dealing with this very weird situation of there was an internal conflict between a religion, intra-faith religion conflict, right? I was telling my Buddhist friend and I said, what should I do? And because in the vocabulary, we believe in embracing Jesus forsaken on the cross. And you know what my Buddhist friend said to me? He said, Lawrence, this is your moment to embrace Jesus forsaken on the cross.
Wow.
Said it back to me.
Your Buddhist friend
My Buddhist
said that.
friend said that to me. And I said, this is your moment. And and I have been uplifted many times because you're dealing with religious youth,
Yeah.
You're not dealing with some random youth who are not into their faith. So when you bring an intensity of core Buddhists, core Catholics, core Protestants,
Right.
the effect is a very spiritual experience.
Right.
It is not a trading of knowledge. It is a trade. It is an exchange of beings, spiritual being.
Yeah.
And I think this is not often, seen or very obvious, right? Because the unfortunate thing about interreligious dialogue sometimes is the optics is far more obvious than the spiritual journeys. But I think so many of us involved in interreligious dialogue, we have been so deeply enriched in our faith because we have been challenged, questioned.
Yeah.
One Protestant friend of mine, we had a long conversation about Mary. So I said that, thank God there's interreligious dialogue, because he said, why are you so fixated about Mary? And I said, why are you not? And he's a pastor.
Right.
And after that, he came away with a love for Mary. He said that if you're able to put it to me that Mary is also my mother, I can buy that.
Wow.
Now, when will you have a chance to talk to a fellow, to a pastor, to a fellow Christian on these topics, interreligious dialogue?
Yeah.
So I would argue that it is not to be afraid.
Yeah.
The question is, why not? The question is, how do you actually practice? Because when you talk to your own, let's say your own group of people, you are in a protected space, right?
Yeah.
But once you go out, you really stretch yourself. You really have to be, you have to be informed. And frankly speaking, this is lifelong formation.
Yes.
It's not something that you go for a course, you have a certificate, I'm ready formed for interreligious dialogue. No way.
But you see, so that was, some are equipped to be able to have that depth of conversation. Some Catholics feel, or other members of other faiths feel that maybe I don't have enough. But yet it is still important to understand the other. Bryan, what can I ask you for the youth? What kind of maybe ingredient do you look for to find a space that is safe, and yet you are all able to really speak your hearts and your minds.
I
know it's not in the question.
I think really the openness to listen, and it's something that Pope Francis said or wrote in Fratelli Tutti, which I try to use as a little bit of a model. For how I approach a dialogue, or at least how I approach my fellow youth, in engaging in dialogue. I actually think what might best sort of capture this and your question, Andre, is what one of our youth leaders says about the pledge that we'll be making on the 13th of September. Mm-hmm. So sort of as part of the program, all the youth sort of present at CJC will be reciting a pledge, a call for hope and unity, as the future generation.
Yes.
So one of our fellow youth leaders, and if you allow me to just sort of read out really quickly,
thank you,
what she said, and this is a non-Catholic, but she's very involved and will be part of the youth on stage.
Wonderful.
And she says that the pledge is a powerful reminder for me to honor the person before me, his unique beliefs, values, identity, and to celebrate the shared humanity no matter our perceived differences. It's to approach each person with curiosity rather than judgment, to protect the dignity and freedom of others in practicing their faith. I think that really captures very well this sort of ingredient, this openness to listen, to learn, which I think we try to grow up with here in Singapore. We try to sort of cultivate, but I think as our sister and Lawrence said, it's not easy. But it really starts with that openness, I feel.
It does. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I like that. I mean, that's key, that honoring the person in front of you.
Yes.
That's really
the heart of it.
Yeah. And whether you're Christian or not, all religions teach us to honor the person in front of us. Jesus, we're quite proud about that. Dear sisters and brothers, you are on The Faith Perspective here on Catholic SG Radio. Today we have Lawrence Chong, Sister Theresa Seow, and Bryan Theng. And the three of them are going to be involved in this meeting with the Holy Father, with youth who are going to be meeting the Holy Father from different religious backgrounds. And they are going to be really, I think, be in conversation, have the opportunity to have that conversation and that time and space, share that space with the Holy Father. There were some things that you said, Lawrence, Bryan, that, what came to my mind was that we actually have to work at keeping this faith dialogue happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, we in Singapore are very lucky because we also know that the government does make a big effort
Yes.
to do this. Maybe can you share this perspective, Lawrence?
Well, I would say, the government has changed its posture to be far more proactive in interreligious dialogue.
Right.
I mean, before there was a little bit of, caution. But, a few years ago, President Halimah is instrumental to this. The government started this international conference for cohesive societies. It was the Singapore government's first foray into positively contributing to interreligious and intercultural understanding in the region. And, I want to be specific about this. They sought out the Catholic Church as one of the key knowledge partners because, in many Catholic universities, we have religious, we have diocesan, we have sisters, reverend brothers, priests who have long, deep studies in interreligious dialogue.
Yeah.
And there are many experts. So practically in the Catholic Church is a thought leader in research, in community engagement, right? So I think with that as an understanding, because the government does its homework all the time very well.
Yeah.
So it is we are a natural partner in this because, like for example, just to give you a fact, right? Many religious communities, they would like to do interreligious dialogue, but they don't have institutions. They don't have offices.
Right.
If you look at our case, we are not involved in interreligious dialogue because we like to do it.
Right.
We are under the mandate of the Archbishop.
Yes.
His Eminence is the one who appoints us to the office.
That's right.
ACCRD.
Yep.
And we are then appointed to serve in interreligious organization. Yeah. And so there is this institutional responsibility as well.
Yeah.
And the government knows this. So that at our level, we are able to engage officially.
Yeah.
Even this organization of this thing, we are able to mobilize, right, through our institutions, Catholic institutions, our schools, our mission schools. And I want to have a big shout out to Catholic Junior College.
Yeah.
They are super amazing.
Fantastic.
Because they are not just giving us a venue.
Yeah.
They mobilized their teachers, their students, and they came for a recent dialogue organized by Bryan. They're young people, fantastic youth.
Yeah.
They are so ready for interreligious dialogue. And I was like, where were you people? So we actually
where were they when you were growing up?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the wish that Sister and I have is that we are trying to bring a new generation of Catholic leaders.
Yeah.
And I think we found them because they didn't need much nudging or forming.
Yeah.
They are very good Catholics. They are well formed, and they are able to engage comfortably. There are no awkward silence, In fact, I think Bryan was trying to, warm them up. They didn't need any warm up. They were just warm already, right? It was a fireplace.
Really,
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
So I think MCCY, particularly, and those folks that we are working with, God bless them. They are amazing. They have been working very hard with us.
Yeah.
And there's no distinction. Who is MCCY? Who is the Catholic
Correct.
diocese, right?
Correct.
And I want to be very specific. It was a dialogue among us. Any issue, any problem, we saw in unity. What should we do?
Yeah.
How should we do this? So it's not a case about who is dominant or not.
Yes.
And I think there's this mutuality.
Wonderful.
Yes, a very sincere mutual respect and esteem for each other's organization, sister, because we worked with them on the variety of things before. But I think this is the most intense, collaboration we ever had with MCCY and CJC. Yes.
Right. Wonderful. Sister, you worked also with IRO and, what is, maybe I'll ask you, what do you hope for the youth the youth in Singapore when it comes to interreligious dialogue?
I think it's already beginning, but the interreligious organization itself probably will have to recognize that the youth is one group where they have to keep promoting, not just youth having their own activities, but youth with the leaders themselves, and to give that space and that platform for the youth to be in dialogue,
right,
and really to take that leadership. So in a way, the religious leaders within the council can play the advisory role.
Yes.
We don't always need to control, to determine what has to be done and what cannot be done.
Yeah.
We have to trust that the young people, they have, in a way, their means of ongoing formation.
Absolutely.
They are tech savvy, but we have to point them in the right direction as to where to find the right material, right, for their own self-formation. So I think this platform of the more experienced religious and the young, giving them that platform to be involved, taking that leadership.
Yeah.
The young people will be able to bring a very diverse age group, and also the women.
Yeah.
The young ladies who are there, and they can also come in to be involved. Whereas, it tends always to be more, it's the elderly that is involved in interreligious.
So,
whereas I think with the group that you have, you also have a very good gender balance.
So there needs to be a passing of the torch, in a sense.
Yes.
Right? I'm sensing that as well.
And being very intentional. I think what we are trying to do in church now is we are bringing a younger generation of young leaders and involving them, moving them forward.
No,
because it's not something that you can just, let's wait for the young people to come forward.
No, I'm so glad that institutionally we see this need to really move it. At one time, of course, we all know, let's be honest, we as the slightly elder ones, right, all want to hold on to something.
Yes.
I think it's human, but I think it's even more human, I think, to realize that we are, already in a decline in a sense, and we have the youth who are there full of energy. And whilst we still can advise, we can just, hand it on to them.
Yes.
Bryan, last question goes to you. What do you hope for after this moment, this space that's held with Pope Francis, right? That you'll be able to hold, and the other leaders with you. What do you hope for after this?
Momentum. So I think the one of the words that Sister Theresa used was catalyze. I'm really hoping that 13th of September will be a catalyst for more young people, whatever religion, whatever culture and beliefs in Singapore, to be more active and so more committed to drawing out some of these interreligious experiences in their own lives. It may or may not be sort of through formal engagements, but I think it's really spreading that message that it's something that the next generation, the future generation, should really hold very preciously and try to build on it, because it's something that is unique and it's something worth building on.
Indeed.
Momentum. Yeah.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Thank you so much. And so well said as well. Thank you for your time, Sister Lawrence, Bryan. Dear sisters and brothers, really, we hope that you also pray for this particular event. Of course, we pray for the whole of the Holy Father's apostolic visit, from Rome all the way to this region, and of course, here in Singapore. But this particular time where he will have some time with the youth, these interfaith youth, and hopefully, as Bryan said, that this will spark a momentum, for more of these dialogues to happen. Let's really, truly pray for that, so that at the end of the day, all of us not only enhance our spiritual lives, but also we know that it will give us a country, a space where there'll be peace, there'll be respect, there'll be dialogue. And as you said, right, honoring the person in front of you. Sorry, Bryan, you said that. Honoring the person in front of you, and I think that's so important. So I honor you, the three of you as well. Thank you so much for being with us. And dear sisters and brothers, I ask you to pray for Sister Theresa, for Lawrence, and for this very young man, and for the others who will be following his footsteps. Thank you so much. Just a gentle reminder before we go, if you're listening to us on the live stream, the Faith Perspective goes out on every fortnight on Tuesday mornings at 8:30. And then, of course, you can catch it again as an encore at 8 p.m. tonight. Also, you'll be able to catch it on our YouTube channel. Okay? So thank you so much for watching this episode of The Faith Perspective. I'm Andre Achat. Take care. God bless and love you all. Bye-bye now.